Hello, you're welcome to today's conversation. And today I'm going to be talking about the top 7 data analyst CV mistakes that you must avoid. If you're trying to get a data analytics role or a data analyst role, um, there are mistakes that you have to avoid. It's important you avoid them. You see, the thing is that a lot of these recruiters, um, they spend very little time between 5 to 7 seconds to decide on whether or not they are going to move forward with an application or not, right? Whether or not they will contact you. And so it's very important that you are able to create a very good, strong first impression because if you don't, by making any of these mistakes, then you won't be selected, right? And what you want to do is to create a very, very good, strong impression whenever someone picks up your CV. They should be like, this is the person that we want to call, this is the person we want to speak to, right? And so I won't waste any of our time today. I'll just dive right in. If you have any questions, I have the question box there. Just dive there and ask your questions. All right, thank you. So what's the first mistake that any data analyst should avoid when creating a CV? The first mistake is that they lack targeting and overuse generic content. For a lot of people, right, they are creating a data analyst CV and they don't target their CV, right? So they get all their experiences, all the information about them, and then they just pour everything into the CV, right? The CV um, is not you telling someone about yourself, but it's about you telling them about how you're going to meet their needs, how you have the skills that they require, right? So if you're unable to target by giving targeted content, then you will fail to meet their needs. So they will move to someone else, right? So you have to learn to target companies when preparing your CV. You have to make sure that the skills that you are writing on your CV actually align with the skills that they are needing, right? What happens is that people who are not interested in targeting their CV or who just have generic content on their CV, they end up having CVs like this. Um, if you look at this CV, right, you'd see that it's not pointing anywhere. Person says that he's a regional manager and he's a cryptocurrency expert. It's just different things, different informations about the person, right? It's very, very generic, saying, oh, he's a go-getter. He likes to maximize synergy in businesses. These things are very vague, right? And they say nothing about the role in which the person is applying to or for, right? And so this is one of the mistakes that a lot of data analysts make in their CVs. It's very vague. It covers so many things, right? Another thing is that some people end up becoming oversharers. They say so many things about themselves, right, that are needless. So in a CV where you're not targeting a role or where you are not being conscious and being what's the word, in a state where you're not concerned, maybe that's the word, concerned about a role, you end up pouring any information about yourself on your CV. For instance, you see someone who puts his address, their age, marital status, and all of that. It's because they are not targeting their CV. If they are targeting their CV, then they won't do that. All right, so that's the first. you have to target your CV, right? And part of targeting your CV, there's a test that particularly I use for targeting my CV, which is that I ask myself, so what? And so what? So for whatsoever it is that I'm putting on my CV, I try to put myself in the shoes of the recruiter or in the shoes of the hiring manager and ask myself, okay, so what? So if I'm saying that I know how to cook, right? The question is, and so what? In the seat of a recruiter, and so what? How does it matter that I know how to cook when it's a data analytics role that I'm applying for, right? Or if I'm telling them that I have worked in art before, that I know how to paint, right? Or I've worked in a laboratory before, right? The next question is, and so what? So, in your experiences, in your objectives, make sure that it is targeted, make sure that it's tailored, because if it's not, then you're not the one who they are looking for. So that's the first point for me. Just make sure that you are the one they're looking for. And then what will be the next point for me? The next mistake that a lot of data analyst CVs make is that they fail to demonstrate any impact or result, right? For a lot of people, they sort of live life passively, and sometimes um, maybe it's not a passive person, but the way they write their CV comes across as being passive, right? So when your CV is not able to demonstrate that what you have done has made any impact or has had any results, then you're most likely the person they are not going to pick, right? So you'd see a point like this: someone will say, "Oh, I managed databases and conducted analysis." Okay, so what did that lead to? What did it lead to? As you managed the databases and you conducted analysis, that's pretty, that's vague. It doesn't convey any form or sense of value. So, as a company or as a recruiter, right, when you see something like that, it's not very impactful. You are just like, oh, okay, the person managed databases, and so what, right? So, this for me is a no, 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 right? For me, this is a no, no. So, what should you instead do? Right? Instead, you could write something like, oh, I developed and optimized SQL queries and Python scripts to manage and analyze data from a 10 terabyte database, improving data retrieval efficiency by 30%. Right? The both of them, same thing. For one of them, um, there's a lot more detail, right? It's not just detail, but there is a conscious effort to demonstrate that impact was made. And what was that impact? Data retrieval was improved, right? So I need you to, if you have your CV, if you've created your CV or you haven't yet created one, just go through it and look at stuff like this. Are you demonstrating value, right? Are you showing how much whatever it is you have done have been able to impact your company or impact your team? If you're not, then you might need to go back to the drawing board. Yep. And this is another example. You'd see someone who would give a point or part of the job description, and he will say, oh, created reports on business metrics. Once again, very vague. Not only that it's vague, but it doesn't show any form of impact. It doesn't show that you're able to create any form of value, right? But if you say something like you designed and you implemented dynamic dashboards using Tableau, leading to 20% increase in actionable insights for the sales and marketing teams, and directly influencing a 15% growth in annual or in quarterly revenue, right? Once you put something like that down, the person is able to see, first of all, is being able to see active words like design, like implement, right? They're able to see that you're able to design conscious thought. You're able to put conscious thought. You're able to implement, meaning you're able to do it with your hands, right? You have the skills. And also, we mentioned Tableau. So, in mentioning Tableau means, okay, I know this skill. So it's not just about me being able to create reports, but if you are needing someone who knows how to use Tableau, then I have this skill, right? And the person is not only able to use these action words, but is also able to tell you the impact that what he created made. And the what it implies is that, okay, I created impact in my previous company, and I'm going to create impact for you also, right? If you are looking to increase your annual revenue, then I will be able to create the reports that will help you increase your annual revenue. So these are the things that subconsciously come into the mind of a recruiter. And when they look at your CV and they see that it's passive, it's not active, it's not showing that you are able to create impact, they just go to someone else. You'd see something like participated in team meetings and provided updates. And so what? And so what? Okay, so you participated in team meetings, you provided updates. Did the updates provide any value? Right? Why are you just a participant? Did you suggest anything? Did you brainstorm? Did you do so? When you're not able, did you spearhead the conversation, right? When you're not able to say these things, you're not able to say what the updates you provided um impacted, then there's a problem. They would look at your CV and go to the next CV, right? So instead of saying something like this, you'd rather say, oh, I spearheaded a cross departmental analysis project that identified key performance bottlenecks, resulting in strategic changes that reduced operational costs by 12%, right? It shows that there was a change that was made. It shows that there was an impact that was made by the meetings. It showed that it was a cross-departmental project, meaning people from different departments were involved. It shows that you are able to hold meetings with people from different departments. It shows that you are able to identify bottlenecks, which are problems. So you have problem-solving skills. So these are the different things that just writing it a different way, in a more active way, would show that you have impact, would show that you're able to make a difference. So these are some of the things that people consider, recruiters consider, and not just very generic content, right? So if you've created your CV, go back, look at every single thing. Are these showing that I am active, or is it showing that I'm passive? Is it showing that I have been able to make some form of progress in the company, some form of impact in the company? If not, then you might have to reevaluate your points. So for you to be able to demonstrate impact, I have said that you have to, if you have looked at all the different points or examples that we've considered, some of the things that you might be able to draw from it is that when demonstrating impact, the use of specific numbers is best for conveying or for quantifying your impact, right? So something has to increase, something has to reduce cost, reduce something, but whatsoever it is, you should be able to say by this percent or by this value, right? Demonstrate it using numbers. Another thing which I have talked about, and if you've seen the different examples, is that there's a strong use of action verbs action verbs like developed or optimized or spearheaded, right? These are the words that show that you are someone who is active and not just passive, right? Then also emphasize expertise in specific tools, especially tools that align with what they want, like SQL or Python or Tableau, right? So when you write down these skills, make sure that you emphasize it, right? So don't just say, oh, I did business reports. No, if they are looking for someone who can make use of SQL, tell them I did business reports using SQL, right? Or with Power Python or Tableau. So this is literally how you can demonstrate impact. And a lot of data analysts are making the mistake of not doing this on their CVs. The next is that a lot of people are ignoring soft skills, right? For a lot of people, they are really ignoring soft skills, right? You think it's, for a lot of people, they think it's all about the Python and the SQL and the Power BI and the Tableau. And to be honest, all these are important, right? It's good for you to know your audience, it's good for you to know your stuff. But if you're not able to have basic things like communication skills, right, then there's a problem. And it's not just about you writing communication skills in your list of skills. Now, that's not enough, right? That's not enough. You should also be able to have it in your job description. When explaining your job description or saying what you did in your previous role, you should be able to um, put those soft skills in there. So, for instance, you can talk about the fact that, okay, I collaborated with cross functional teams to identify key business metrics, right? Collaborated. You've shown that you're able to work as part of a team. Don't underestimate the power of soft skills. Don't underestimate the power of soft skills. You can also say, oh, you presented data insights to non-technical stakeholders, right? It shows that you're able to present, right? And it shows that you're able to work with stakeholders, right? So these are things that shows that you have soft skills, and for a lot of companies, soft skills mean a lot to them. It's not just about your your um your technical skills, right? So at the end of the day, you just need to make sure that you're able to show that you are a person and you can work with people. You understand people, you can lead teams, you you can plan, right? These are soft skills and you need to show that you have them. The next on my list, mistake number 4 is that for a lot of people, they miss very basic things like contact information and online profiles, links to their online profiles and their projects, right? And I don't know how people can make this kind of mistake, and I've seen it over and over and over again. So, how does one reach you immediately? There are some roles that people need to reach you immediately, right? But they did not see your contact information. So they're just like, okay, let me go to the next person, right? Or they don't know how good you are, they don't know how much work you've been able to put in, they can't see the projects you've worked on and know that you are able to demonstrate those skills just because you don't have a link to, let's say, your GitHub profile or anywhere that people can find the projects that you've worked on, right? This is a very, very big mistake. And if you do not have at least your basic contact information, like your phone number, your email address, your GitHub, your LinkedIn, then that's a mistake, right? Sometimes people just want to do a little further investigation or on you to make up their minds on whether or not they should go with you or not. But when all what they have in front of them is your CV, then they'll move to someone else. I'll go to the next mistake that people make. The next mistake people make, which is mistake number 5. Mistake number 5. Very, very common for a lot of people. Very poor formatting and spelling errors, right? And you would think that as a data analyst who is meant to be very, very keen on the little details, you would see someone with really poor formatting and spelling errors. I'll go through an example for you. You would see a CV looking like this, right? Digital marketing specialist. Where is the last T? Right? Specialist. Or you would see very, very funny things. If you read detail oriented digital marketing specialist with a proven history of successful implementation and optimizing digital marketing campaigns, right? And then why the space between the dot, the full stop, right? So some of these things might seem very basic, but when someone goes through it, they'll feel like you're not a very serious person, or you don't pay attention to details, and they would rather go with someone else, right? They would rather go with someone else. So what particularly I do is that after I have created a CV, I try to pass it on to someone to go through it for me, because a lot of times what I may have skipped, that person will find. So yeah, and I think there are softwares that you can give your CV to proofread and find some of the errors for you. I think ChatGPT can also do that. So yeah, as much as possible, pay attention to your spelling, pay attention to all of these things, right? And be consistent. Don't use British language in one part and then American in another part and all of those stuff. It just shows that you do not pay attention to details, right? And you would see someone's formatting using different forms of text. You use one thing for it pains the eye, really. Just different colors, different everything, with no reasons for anything. This is very, very poor formatting. Very, very poor formatting, right? And you need to look through your CV. Is the formatting basic? Do the text, are you using too many fonts or too many colors? Are things aligned, right? Those are some of the basic things that can disqualify someone, right? And although we don't see stuff like this very often, but yeah, there are people who make these mistakes of having this kind of poor formatting. Another formatting mistake that a lot of people, I wouldn't necessarily say it's a mistake. I'd say it's a preference, that there is the stylized CV and then there is the traditional CV. The stylized CV, you would see the fancy templates online, right? And a lot of people like to use them. The traditional is, just good basic old times new Roman font, right? Or the popular font, right? And for a lot of people, they are confused on which one to use. Should they use a stylized or should they use a traditional? They both have their advantages and disadvantages, if I'm going to be honest. And I'll start with the advantages of a stylized CV. For a stylized CV, once someone sees it, it's able to catch attention, right? And as I said, if you have let's say 5 to 7 seconds to create an impression, then having an eye-catching CV actually counts, right? So that's for the stylized CV, right? But it has its cons also. It's not able to hold, huge amounts of information, and a lot of times it might not be able to pass the ATS system, because once you pass this through, you would see that everything will just scatter. The ATS system, the automatic system, is not able to determine what is what, right? Is this part of the education section or the experience section? So that's the downfall of the stylized CV. But for the traditional CV, um, I think the downfall of it is that it's not able to catch any attention. It's very basic, pretty much basic. It's pretty much what most people already have, right? So um, visually, it doesn't catch anyone's attention, right? But it has some advantages. You're able to put in good amount of information on it, right? And it's readable, and the ATS system is able to work well with it. So a lot of people might ask, should they use a stylized or a traditional? I'd say for a data analyst role, you would rather, to get the benefits of both a stylized and a traditional CV, you could go somewhere in between, right? Somewhere in between means having a CV which is clear, it's understandable, it's readable, the fonts are good, right? And it's also ordered properly. It also has um, a visual aspect to it, where someone is able to look at it and say, okay, this looks good. Let me give it further 1 second or 2 seconds, right? So somewhere in between is perfect. Somewhere in between is perfect. It can be stylized with maybe just one color. Like I gave an example where you can see here, it has just one color outside of black, which is blue, right? And it's basic. Someone can read it and say, okay, I can see everything that is in it, but it also catches the eye. So yeah, that's with formatting. And I'll go to the next mistake a lot of people make. The next mistake a lot of people make. The next mistake a lot of people make is that they use improper length. It's either too long or it's too short, right? You would see someone with CV of 3 pages, 4 pages, 5 pages, and the person is just an entry level data analyst. What experience are you explaining of in 4 5 pages, right? And unfortunately, you would see a lot of other people who have very good solid experience, good experience, and then they'll put all their experience in like half a page. Like, why? 1 page, 2 pages is good enough, right? If you are able to put all your information in 1 page or 2 pages, then you have tried, right? And it's not about how long it is, it's not about how many achievements you have, it's about how you're able to convey that you have skills that align with what it is that they need, right? And you're able to put that in the most effective manner. So, not too long that they are bored of reading, and not too short that you're not able to convey all the important information, right? And then I would go to the last mistake that I see a lot of people make, a lot of data analysts make, and it's the fact that they use excessive jargons. They use excessive jargons, right? This is something that we see very often. You would see a lot of people say a lot of jargons. They just talk about complex stuff. And so it's difficult for whoever it is that is reading to understand what it is that you're saying, right? Most times the technical people are able to see what you're saying and understand it. But for a recruiter, or most times the recruiter is a non-technical person. The recruiter is a non-technical person. So he picks up your CV and what he can see is something like this: spearheaded the design and deployment of complex ETL workflows utilizing Apache NiFi and AWS Glue, enabling seamless data integration and transformation across heterogeneous data sources. Whew. Why? Why? Right? When you could easily say this in a way that, I mean, non technical people can also have a fair understanding of what you're saying, or architected OLAP cubes and data marts with star and snowflake schema designed for optimized multidimensional analysis and ad hoc querying, reducing query latency by 60%. I mean, these are good points, these are fair points, but you should understand that most cases, the person who is going to pick up your CV first is not a technical person, right? The recruiter who is going to pick up your CV is not a technical person, and there might be other people within the recruitment process who are not technical people. So it will be fair enough to them if you are able to write your points in such a balanced way that it's not overly technical and doesn't chase them away, right? And you're also able to make a point. So I need you to look at your CV. Is it lacking details and being too vague, or is it having in it too much of technical jargons in it, right? So evaluate that. And I know these are the 7 points, but I'm just going to go above the 7 points to say the last one, which actually is funny. Liar, liar, pants on fire. Why are you lying? Why are you lying? Why are you lying? You're an entry level data. Someone sent me his CV on LinkedIn. This person is looking for an entry data analyst role, but he has 7 years of experience being a junior data analyst. And I'm like, who on earth is a junior analyst for 7 years just for you to claim that you have 7 years of experience, right? Or why are you overinflating most of the things that you have done? Okay, you created a place to store 2 tables, 3 tables, and you say you created a something big data, just conflating stuff and making things look so big, right? Stop lying. Stop lying. Stop it. Stop lying. The skills that you don't have, you don't need to tell them that you have it, right? You can talk about skills that you already have that are close to what it is that you're looking for, and be honest enough to, in an interview process, just let them know that I know you need this skill, I have this skill to this level, and I hope that that's fine, right? So try as much as possible not to conflate things, right? Blow things out of proportion, because a lot of times the people know. And because I have said people should try as much as possible to talk about the impact of the work that they have done, now a lot of people end up going to the extreme end of it to core value that is not there, right? You'd say a report that you created 1,000% increase in revenue for your company. That's a lie, right? And I mean, the hiring manager knows that you're lying. They won't go forward with your application. So as much as possible, try and evaluate the measures, the value and the impact that your work has had, but don't lie. Don't conflate your years of experience. Don't conflate these things. Um, I don't know if I have any question, but I think I'll have to stop here. Do I have any questions? Do I have any questions? I can see a few people are online. All right. While I wait for questions, I'll just give this bonus point since you have been able to wait for this long. Thank you for waiting this long. I appreciate that you have been able to tune in to listen to me. It shows that you trust my judgment with these things, right? And I'll just give you a bonus tip just to say thank you. And which is that after you have made an application, if it's an application that you're really interested in, for most job descriptions, they will say that this role reports to dot dot dot. So if it's a data analyst role, for instance, you would probably see something like, okay, this role reports to the head of analytics, I don't know, Coca-Cola, right, or Vodafone, right? This role reports to the head of analytics, MTN, right? Whenever you see something like that, um, something that is interesting or important for you to do is to go on LinkedIn, check for who that person is, and then you could send the person a private message, right? So I would just go and Google, okay, who is the head of analytics, Vodafone, London. I look for the person, send him a message. I would say, hey, I see that you are recruiting for this role. I think I have, with my experience from this company, I think I have the skills that are required for the role, and I would like to talk about it a little bit more with you because I would like to understand the role a bit more and also have you understand um, my skills and my perspectives, right? Is this something that we can have a non-committal chat, a chat where you're not committed to anything but just a conversation? And a lot of times they would say yes. A lot of, and it blows my mind how many yeses that you'd get from that I have gotten from that, right? And then you can move to the next stage of having a conversation with the person. You send the person where is book time with the person, right? And then you meet the person, have a conversation with the person, and most times that would mean that you have already crossed the first stage of the application process, which is the conversation that you're supposed to have with the immediate recruiter, right? You have passed that stage and you have gone directly to actually meeting the guy. All right, I have a question here saying, is there any standard font size for CV, please? Um, so far I haven't seen a standard size, right? I do not think that there are standards. I think that we should just be reasonable enough to stay within the range of readability, and for most fonts that I have seen, somewhere between a 10 and a 12 often works, right? Somewhere between a 10 and a 12 would often work. Yeah. And then you could use varied sizes for maybe the headings. So the employment section, for instance, the part where you write employment section, you can make a bit bigger, like maybe a 14 or a 15 or something like that. But usually somewhere between a 10 and a 12. Also, with regards to font, I would say generally that sans serif fonts are a lot friendlier than serif fonts. And just to explain what sans serif fonts are, um, fonts like this where they don't have hooks at the ends and at the tails, those are sans serif fonts, and they are generally more friendly as compared to fonts like Times New Roman and the rest of them. So yeah, that's what I have to say about font size. And another thing that I try to do sometimes is, if you see my slides, you would see that I try to highlight stuff using different color. I also do that on my CV. So if I see that it's a skill that needs SQL, I would highlight the SQL. If I see it's a role that needs teamwork, sometimes I would highlight the collaboration. And the reason I do that is because I want a scenario where the person who picks up my CV is able to, the eyes of the person who picks up my CV is able to see the most important things on my CV as fast as possible before they drop my CV. So once they pick my CV, I need them to be able to see, okay, collaborated. Okay, that means he has worked with someone before. He has worked with people before, right? So I think that's very important for me, and that's something I think that you could also employ. Do I have any further questions? All right. If there are no further questions, I'd like to thank you all for attending this class today, and you could you could drop any question in the comment section after now, or you could contact me directly and I will be able to answer your questions. Have a great weekend and peace out.